want to welcome everyone to our Board of Commissioners meeting for Tuesday, July 6th, 2021. We'll start our meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge of Allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we'll start our meeting. We'll start with a meeting for the unsafe building hearing for 709 North State Road 5. Craig?
I have some photographs for the commissioners. I mean, those photographs are less than 1 moment. Yeah, this is in regard to an unsafe building order. Notice for demolition at 709 North State Road 5, Largo, Indiana. Owners Ralph and Joellen Fitch. Primarily, the order was issued in response to health department information that the house had become unsafe. Ceilings falling, escape and rescue openings on a bedroom block. It's reported 3 fires on the structure with no repairs afterwards. And you might also notice in the pictures there's a outbuilding that's been kind of cobbled together, also considered unsafe. So the order has been issued. Hearing date today, or 60 days is what the state statute allows us to give in for complying with the order. And so we're going to hear today for any comments on that from the owner or his representative this time. Yeah.
I also have some information here for you. I'll pass it to you here in a second. The health department has dealt with this property particularly since 1998 with violations on living conditions, junk and trash, burning violations. You'll see here that we've been involved with DCF at that residence, with IDEM at that residence, having not only what Craig said about the interior of the structure, but also the septic system being out of compliance. It was declared unsuitable for habitation in 2018. And then people moved into there in the fall of last year, and we had to remove them this year. So that's why we're here again, is even though we declare unsuitable and we should live in there, it still gets rented out. So I don't know how else to keep it compliant other than take it before the board for condemnation. So here's your paperwork. Did you have any questions for me before the session?
I'm sorry, so you said no one's living there, but it gets rented out at times?
We declared unsuitable for habitation in 2018. And then in the fall of 2019, we moved other people in there, allowed them to live there. Speaking with people who we recently moved out this spring, they told us that when they moved in, they had no electricity, no water. And so many things were fixed on there, and that they paid for all those to be fixed themselves. But unfortunately, it was already declared unsuitable, so they had to leave the residence.
What does the owner say? Why are they not?
I haven't talked to Ralph particular on this property probably in years on that. Just rents it out.
Have we made attempts to contact the owner?
Oh, you'll see in my file, we've been to court several times here with the county over these issues before. I know remediation has ever been done, nothing's been done to fix them or clean them up or anything like that. So whenever we declare the habitation unsuitable, we send them a copy too. So he gets a copy of all that as well as the residents at the property. So he's been notified.
So as far as the 60 days and the compliance, does it have to be brought up 100% to compliance, or does he just have to show progress on that?
60 days is what state statute allows us. State statute used to allow the building department to ask for a suitable time for compliance. But then they took that away from us several sessions ago and said 60 days is the limit. If the owner wants more time, he can come into the hearing and ask for it, present maybe a plan to remodel the house, take care of the problems that we're having there. But I haven't had any response from Mr. Fitch at this time.
So then after the 60 days, I'm assuming the county just contracts with somebody to take it down.
We begin the process.
Okay.
The entire process is rather lengthy. We have to submit bids, we have to notify the owner that we're submitting for advertising for bids. Then we advertise the bid process and ask for contractors to put bids in. And once the hearing authority accepts those bids, then we can go ahead with the demolition. At the period, my notice in the order there, after 15 days after the bid is completed and the order is done, we bill the owner. If it's not paid for, then we have other options to follow up on getting county reimbursed, including putting a lien on the property, adding to those taxes and things.
Do we know if the taxes have been paid on the property? Scott says
As
yes.
far as I know, they're up to date.
Yeah, I checked one of those properties this morning, but I didn't check this one. I'm sorry. I can find out if you like.
Scott was saying.
As far as I know, he's up to date. Else, pay for the property taxes and electrical bills and everything.
Or anything from us?
Yeah,
to
well,
oversee?
just uphold the order. If you're satisfied with the order. Is that me? If you think maybe it's not enough time, if you give more time, we can do that in another notice. That's totally up to you. But the hearing authority makes that decision. I'm only allowed, as acting as a staff for the executive director, to give them 60 days.
I'll move that we uphold the order as presented for the 60 days.
Got a motion?
Before I second, I'd like to hear from Attorney Shipman.
Craig, is there a specific actual order in this packet that you're asking them to do, or is it? That's what I'm flipping through here.
We didn't get a copy.
Yeah. That's what I was looking for through here, but there's a long history of stuff in here that,
Yeah, oh, you got Scott's back.
oh, okay.
Yeah, here's the actual order.
You guys had a chance to read this. Doesn't this normally go through the court system as opposed to the commissioners?
Some
It's an alternative. Okay.
We never have.
But just, I haven't seen one of these in.
We've always decided as part of my first director directed me through the ordinance and that's.
To answer your,
Always appeal to the courts. It's an option.
having just looked through this, I don't see any issues, but again, it's just little, if it's, to me, it seems like there's a really long history here and the name's not unfamiliar to me from similar issues in that town. So it looks appropriate to me, but again, I haven't read all these statutes to be able to say definitively. But he told Craig and Scott know what they're doing, but
I can send you a copy of that too. We'll notice there's a typo.
yeah, I
After the
can't
text,
listen to that TV. Sorry.
but our ordinance numbers are correct.
So basically what this does is start the 60-day clock during that.
Clock's already started.
Okay. When,
It starts when you give notice. The date of the notice is when the state statute says the 60 days.
which was, when was the,
June 6th.
so there are more 60 days.
We sent registered mail, no response on that yet, but we also advertised twice in the local newspapers, Columbia City and South Woodland, to meet our requirement
For the statute.
Do we know where Mr. Fitch is is he a local resident?
He is.
So they just said that taxes are not current, according to the treasurer's office. But in addition, if you look at my paperwork in 2018, the court ordered him, basically, the house was unsuitable, you gotta clean it up, you gotta fix these problems, and nothing's been done, so it's been almost 2 years.
Scott, there are probably other properties that they own that are similarly situated.
Yeah, I
Is
have
that correct?
files on it.
But we closed the hearing before we do that.
That's fine. I just, for purposes.
Residents or other problems.
Okay, we got a motion.
Just to keep things moving, I'll second.
You sound just a little worried about it.
Yeah, I'll second, but I'm not prepared to vote for it. I feel that it's rushed. I haven't had a chance to review everything. It's not anybody's fault, but there's a lot of unknowns, like if the Fitches are local, seems like I'd rather see a conversation happen, but then it also sounds like he's not around or responsive to have those conversations. At this time, I'm not in favor of that's not to say that next meeting I wouldn't be in favor, but there's just too many things that I'm unsure of this time.
I would ask that we table this, if you wouldn't mind.
I think with the years of history that we have and our attempts to see him, I mean, we can all but chase the guy down. It seems like they've done their due diligence and that's their job, so we kind of need to give them deference on their expertise, so.
Well, and I understand that, but I guess my thought is we haven't really seen the order applicant before we make some kind of decision on this.
Matt, what would the time be that you could take a look at that and let us know if it was okay or not?
I could do it this week. If we table it, do we have to start the clock over again? I haven't looked at these
No, we do
statutes.
not, but as a hearing authority, you have the authority to say, we're gonna hold this off for a month. Move the date back to 90 days. That's not a problem. You got authority to do that. We can try to get in touch with him again. I can provide you all with a copy of the specific order. I wasn't where you didn't have it. Sorry.
You think that you can get it looked at by this week?
Yeah, I think so. I would feel a little more comfortable as well. Just being able to read the statutes. I do understand with this individual, potentially this is a.
So I'll amend
ongoing
my
issue.
motion that after you review it, if you believe that everything looks like it's in order, that the order stays as is after Attorney Shipman reviews it by June 9th, by Friday.
Yeah, that's fine. I think you need official action in a public hearing though, right? So we'd have to table it to take action at the next commissioners meeting, which is, look, this one's been going on for 10 years. So another 30 days or whatever to get it right. Nobody's currently living there, right?
Not
best we know.
That's how I was planning.
He is the current resident, lives on West Division Road. 3 of the properties are in violation at this time.
3 of his other properties. Okay.
Take that discussion up to Siri.
So we can keep it as is and then come back in 2 weeks and then keep the 60 days after you report back to us?
Yeah, I think so.
So is that a motion to
I'll
table?
second that we.
Okay.
that we table it
What's the motion that you're seconding?
That we
Did you make
table
a
it.
motion?
until.
No, I didn't make a motion.
I'm
I was
sorry.
asking for a motion to table for the next meeting, at least at the.
So you do have a motion and a second on the floor now,
No, I have a motion.
but you do have a motion and a second on the floor now. She made a motion. I seconded, so I think you need to call for a vote and it needs to die
Okay,
for lack of.
that's right. Yep.
That's right.
Okay, we'll call for a motion on the original approval for the unsafe building hearing. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed?
No.
Okay.
I'm a little bit confused about what we just did.
Okay, that was for the original, and we just approved the unsafe.
Okay, you
Hearing.
approved upholding it.
Yeah.
I will still, Craig, if you could email
Yeah,
that
we'll
to
just
me.
have
I'll still,
Matt.
We're still going, so.
to the extent there is I'll provide feedback.
Thank you.
I think it's just that it's a formality that Matt goes through that, but we will have him go through that also.
And could you just send us an email just so we kind of know like what's going on, just CC all of us as the process?
Our hearing's closed.
We'll close our hearing at this time.
If you have questions about the property owner, I can answer those questions. The question was, I'd rather, should I have 4 unsafe building orders, or complaints, I should say, on my desk now for the same problem?
So I guess, don't we have another avenue to go through also if they're not paying their taxes on these?
One of those complaints, I just checked with the treasurer this morning, is up on tax sale in October. So that kind of complicates what we do, because we don't want to be stepping on each other's toes with the treasurer's department. So we'll have to just look, see what we're doing with that one. Yeah, that's always an option too. Like I say, at least one of them's up for tax sale at the CD.
I would be in favor of the tax sale myself.
Well, no, this was a fire as well. It's can't be inhabited. It's pretty well burned out. But town's complaining because it hasn't really been boarded enough yet. So,
Thank you.
anything else for me?
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Scott. Okay, we'll open our regular meeting and we'll start with our employee recognition. First one we have, Thor Hodges, 25 years of service. Next one we have Paula Ward. That's not even that old, 31 years.
Thank you.
Okay, our attorney, Matt Shipman.
Thank you. There's multiple other things that are on the agenda that I did review, the ordinance that's proposed, the access agreement. The only thing that's not on the agenda ultimately is kind of a follow-up to a conversation that George and I had last week related to the Whitley County Regional Sewer District. I know Steve Henshin is here, similar to Blue Lake's request. Last week, we did have a conversation with the director of the Indiana Finance Authority, and it's been made pretty clear to us, and this is on behalf of the countywide regional sewer district, that the IFA is really encouraging people, districts to come and ask the county for support from their relief funds for these SWIFT applications. And it seems as if, reading through the lines, those that do not get that county support with some of their dollars are likely not going to receive the SWIFT funds. Can't say that directly, but that's in essence what we heard on that phone call. And so Steve's on the agenda, so he understands he may get bumped to the end, but he would like just to kind of make the same request, different, but a similar request to what Blue Lake made. Because at least then we can tell the state that we've asked and represent that to the state. These are all getting rushed because unfortunately the government set this with the July 15th deadline. That's why you're getting these so quickly. It's no fault of anyone's other than frankly, the timeline is so tight that, if you don't come in and ask, you can't tell them that you asked, so.
So Matt, who is Steve with?
Steve Henshin is the engineer from Jones Petrie Rafinsky, who is the engineering firm that has been hired by the countywide regional sewer district that we're obviously in the process of currently have an application in with SRF right now for funding with Steve's knee deep in design, and this project is really set up kind of well to go potentially with these SWIFT funds, because we're already in the queue, we're already high up, and we're really hoping they're looking at that rate structure to try and keep it under $100, close to that $85 range. And the countywide sewer district needs pretty significant help to get there. And so I think that's another reason why the director in that phone call informed us, hey, you guys need to at least ask. And so that's why Steve's here today.
So it pretty well needs to be a monetary,
We just need a commitment at this point. We don't need a dollar amount. We just need to be able to say, yes, if you get an application approved for SWIFT funds, that you will. Initially it came out as a match. Now they're just calling it participation without really quantifying what that participation even is. This is such a fast evolving program that the guidance is coming down every day, and Steve's been in touch with the finance authority a lot more about it than I have, so he could explain it. But yeah, they're looking for being able for us on our application to say we've asked the county and they have agreed to make a commitment without a dollar amount. That's what we need at this point. At some point, mid-August, I think, if our application gets accepted and approved, we're gonna get asked for what that dollar amount looks like. And again, this is the recovery funds, the 6.6 million or whatever that the county received. Those are the funds we're talking about. We're not talking about, seeded money, county general money. It's part of those relief funds are specifically allocated for things like broadband, things like sewer, water, infrastructure projects. Seems like without telling us, their intent was to help really streamline a whole bunch of infrastructure projects and I can't remember the number, but it was in the like $1 billion of how many applications they've already gotten for these funds. I can't remember what Jim said. It was hundreds of thousands, hundreds of millions. So
it's only 50 million that they have to give away. So
50 million.
Mr. Chairman, I'd ask that you recognize.
Yeah.
Mr. Henson, could you give us your name and your position with the company?
Yes, Steve Henson, senior engineer with the firm Jones, Petrie, Rafitsky. We are the sewer district, and they've asked me to come today. A couple of board members, unfortunately, were unavailable to come, just to present our case, our request, and as Matt has said, to be on record. I have a few handouts, if I may send them your way. I just put together a quick little summary of the project. And I know some of you are probably familiar with it already. This is just some supplemental kind of showing the overall surface area of the project. So I just wanted to hit a few of the facts. Matt gave you a little background. What this district has moved forward with is a formal application to the state revolving fund for what they're calling their initial project. And as you go through my handout, that overall project area includes 2 service areas up in Churubusco. One we're calling Churubusco West, Churubusco South. These are outside of the incorporated areas of the town of Churubusco. We then have the unincorporated community of Coessie. Area is sewered that connects to Columbia City. This project would take the rest of the residential connections that aren't on that sewer system. Then there's a small area in Dunphy, about 9 homes there. County Line Road South, which is just south of State Road 14, County Line Road, just on the Whitley County side. And then the Stable Acres, which is a development along State Road 14, just west of County Road 400. Next page, number 3, just gives you a rough idea of the total connections that we have in there. You can see with those 6 project areas, there's about 275 residential sewage producing facilities that would be connected to this system. and showing who the treatment providers would be. So there's already an agreement in place with Aqua Indiana for Dunphy, for East County Line South and Stable Acres. And there's already an agreement in place with Columbia City, and with Cherubusco, an agreement is and almost, I think, in final form. If that's correct, Matt.
Yeah, close,
So
very close.
we're getting real close. Cherubusco is doing a joint project separate, some capacity improvements in their wastewater collection and treatment system. Need for project is similar to what we see with many of these septic systems. I'm on page 4. The county here did a pretty detailed assessment back in 2018 where they identified violations, tanks, septics without records, cases of non-compliance, did some testing, found some off-site pollution and raw sewage into local and state waterways. The district had looked at various areas throughout Whitley County. You can see I've highlighted on page 4 again the 4 communities that would be part of this initial project. Of course, the benefits are we're eliminating aging septic systems, we're cleaning up state and local waterways, making our water systems safer, and preventing future septic failures. Because we all know that septics have a limited life, and most that were installed were not up to current standards and may not have suitable soils to even put in a cost-effective septic system. Page 6 is just a rough overall project cost. So this is kind of showing you how it's broken down by the construction cost by the 6 service areas there, totaling about $9.1 million. Non-construction costs detailed out there, total of about $11.3 million is the total cost of this initial project. And that's where the funding really comes in. It's, you know, anytime we can get forgivable loans, grant money, it's going to help bring that user rate cost down. And the goal of the sewer district was to make, you know, to perform septic elimination projects in a cost-effective manner. And, you know, some of these areas are smaller, heavy need. It makes the cost per user relatively high. And, you know, there's been some initial studies that have shown if there's no grant commitments whatsoever, costs could be well over $100 per month. And the district has been working hard pursuing all avenues of obtaining grants to keep rates as low as possible. Overall schedule, just so you can see, I mean, this is a real project. We've been under design for about 6 months now, and we intend to have a final design wrapped up. I'm on page 7, and the project out for bid at the end of this year. We would be receiving bids in January, maybe February, then doing whatever final financial closing on loans and grants in the month of March, beginning construction in April, and then allocating about a year for construction. We may not need the full year, but most likely then in April 2023 is when the system would be complete and ready for customers to connect. So the last page of that handout, then page 8 talks about the project funding. So the district has and submitted to the state revolving fund. That's a branch under the Indiana Finance Authority that administers funding for water. It's a loan and forgivable loan program. And our hope is, based on past history, that we're going to get a significant amount of forgivable loan from the state revolving fund agency. Project priority list is something that when you submit for funding for them, you get ranked and scored on their list. Last year, we were number 3 on the small projects list in the state. But they didn't give us any grant funding below the top 2. And what they kind of had to change last year in their program, rather than spending a lot of splitting grant funds between 5 or 10 projects on the top 5 or 10, they committed all their grant funding to the top 2 projects. And we expect we're going to get something similar to that this year. That's our hope. We expect if we were number 3, we're going to be moving up to maybe 1 or 2. on that state list, which we feel will put us in good shape for getting a significant, may not be enough yet to keep the rates at a reasonable rate. We don't know that, but we will know that roughly program and their own state revolving fund program to make the award announcements at about the same time. So we're expecting in mid-August to know what their commitments are going to be on the state revolving fund program as well as the SWIFT program. So I want to talk just a little bit about SWIFT, point number 2, the State Water Infrastructure Fund. That was set up recently by the federal government where the state of Indiana received $50 million this year, $50 million next year specifically for water and wastewater infrastructure type projects, as well as stormwater. As Matt said, it's a very fast moving pace. They just made the announcements in mid-June. They set a July 15th deadline for the application. The district, however, doesn't have to do a formal application because we already have our SRF funding application in. They're not making us do a separate one for SWIFT. They're already going to throw us into that category to apply. And then the third point there is the county ARP fundings, and where this has really come to light based on recent phone conversations, as Matt has shared, they have basically told us that SWIFT applications with co-funding commitments from local agencies, such as county ARP, will score higher than those applications with no co-funding commitments. They kind of rank it into 3. They said, if you get a co-funding commitment, let us know, that's great. You're going to score probably better than most. If you've made the request with no commitment, tell us that. That'll help. And if you choose not to make a request, then that part of your application may not score as well as others. They're still looking also, similar to the state revolving fund program, any community that is targeting or looking at sewer rates that are $85 a month or higher are going to get the highest number of points for financial need. And we're kind of in that category if we don't get any grant. Score really well there. We know that a septic elimination project is a high priority of the state of Indiana, that will score very well in that aspect as well. So with that, as Matt indicated, our purpose here was twofold. We would sincerely hope and that the county would consider participation through using some of the ARP funds. I don't think the district is looking for you to spend all of your ARP funds with them. While it's not county ARP funded, but we've done similar projects of this size and nature in other counties, countywide sewer districts, and we've seen the local, sometimes it's EDC or whatever, they're committing on a project this size of $1 to $2 million range, and SRF is like very pleased with that. And then that makes them feel like, okay, we got local commitment here, so we're going to step up and get the best funding we can to keep those rates at an affordable rate. Any questions for me?
No, I appreciate you presenting. The timing of this is terrible if the applications are due on the 15th of this month.
Yes.
And I'm not prepared to move forward with this without consideration. So, I have to wonder if just a letter of some sort of a nod of support from this board of commissioners is worth the paper it's written on if it doesn't specify a financial amount.
They seem to suggest that a letter saying that we would support it without an amount would be better than no letter at all.
Well, I would be in favor of contributing something, but I don't want to say that it would come from the relief fund either. Is that where it must come from? I mean,
Well,
that was the question we asked. I don't know.
I don't know if that was actually, hey, what if they brought it from another fund instead of this fund? I think, to me, it's local commitment.
Yeah.
That we have commitment, that we will
Some sort of,
support this and not name obviously a dollar amount, and also not name where the money's gonna come from. Because we don't know yet with the relief fund, how we can use the money. I mean, the rules are still being made.
But I know Baker Tilly is currently trying to figure out, from you guys just at the last meeting did that, to kind of have them figure out how best to use the funds. But yeah, I think what you're saying is really the best case scenario we could really ask for at this point, is because you can't commit a dollar amount without knowing all the other things that are out there. And I don't think we're going to hear back, and Steve, correct me if I'm wrong, from SRF, well, the amount has to be this amount. I think they're just going to want to see that there is a commitment from the county. And the more the commitment, ultimately, when they ask us in August, probably the more it is, the more they'll like it. But whenever you ask them, it's like, well, I can't really tell you this or that, but this is what we want to see. It's all very,
Yeah,
you know what I mean? It's so we just don't know. I mean, at the end of the day, they asked us to ask. At the end of the day, they said, if we can get a commitment that says, yes, we'll help without an amount, that they may ask us in a month for something more definitive, but you'll have a month to figure out whether or not, whatever that it looks like, you're comfortable with or not. Or you can just say, no, that's not what we were thinking. We were thinking.
typically what'll
Something
happen, it'll
different.
be the same way with the SRF side of the funding. They'll send out an email to the financial advisors and consultants and the district and say, okay, we haven't made a formal commitment, but you scored really well. What is your local contribution? What would it look like? And that's where you start maybe get a little hint from them about some things and where you think it should be. There's that kind of conversation going.
Hopefully what we hear, is that. I don't know that we will get that specific, but then you'll know, okay, for every dollar we spend, you're going to get basically SWIFT funds of X. If we get something like that, then you'll know exactly, and then we'll be able to, Baker Tilly be able to tell us, okay, what does that rate look like, given what, because we're going to hear everything about the same time.
Yes.
Grants and what will be loans, and in about a month, right?
Yeah, they originally,
month and a half.
okay, the applications are due July 15th. That's hard and fast. You got to have it in before then. And then, we can even make a note that, yes, a presentation was made. I'm projecting here. The commissioners indicated a willingness to contribute and leave it at that and say, we'll follow up with more information, meeting minutes, whatever else they might need for us to be able to get that in. Or, if there was a letter actually prepared, which wouldn't take that long, that'd be fine for us to be able to submit as well. But they said July 15th is hard and fast. Decision date, but in our meetings last week, they've already pushed that back a couple of weeks and saying they probably won't be making those announcements. Or mid-August. So I'm assuming somewhere between July 15th and mid-August is when they reach out to us and let us know a little bit about what they're thinking, and then they'll ask us and through the county, what you might be willing to contribute.
I'll make a motion that we write a letter in support with the possibility of a financial commitment, but at this point, that's just something that I would not feel comfortable doing. Putting any commitment towards any of the ARPA funds, or I don't know, that didn't come from there. I don't know, it's served 674 and we're a population of about 34,000. That's just a lot of money for a very specific group of people that's not going to benefit a big portion of the county at all.
supporting the RDA for the projects that we've got before us with no financial commitment.
Is that what you meant in your motion?
With a possibility. We can take a look at it, but as of right now, I do not feel comfortable with that. If you said $1 million or $2 million is what they're really looking at.
No,
I mean, I would say
I just-
any amount right now for me. So that would be my motion possibility.
And I think, just Teresa, for clarification, I think what Steve is saying is on other projects, you've seen that amount. But I think even $100,000 would go a long ways to us getting some of those SWIFT funds. Doesn't have to be,
No.
it could be a small percentage, frankly. I think it's something will be better than nothing, even if you could commit at that level. You can say, it doesn't have to be, I guess what I'm saying is remove the word possibility and say we'll fund it, with the thought being that, hey, we may only fund it at that level, which is whatever percentage of 6.6 that is. At least then we can say definitively there'll be support without knowing the amount. The letter you're suggesting is better than nothing.
What's the
Absolutely.
lowest amount you've seen counties come in?
Well, for this specific application, it's never, this is a new
First time.
program.
Yeah.
But in other programs is what you were comparing?
It varies with the size of the project. You know, Marshall County, they're looking to contribute a large portion of their funding for a new startup regional sewer district. Haven't really been to that many other districts. Projects I'm working in right now are Steuben, LaGrange, and Marshall County. So that meeting's not happening until today as well. Marshall County, we know, has informally said they want to contribute multi-millions of dollars to that project. And I really can't say what some of the other counties will do.
I think every county is trying to figure out how to spend this money, and we've been, dealing with trying to figure out a way to solve some broadband issues for a while, so the money came along at the right time. From that perspective, a lot of counties haven't been forward thinking about broadband, and so they were like, well, I don't know what else we're going to spend it on. Let's give it all to the sewer because they're asking for it and they can use it. I get that's not necessarily, we're not in the same spot potentially as Marshall because you guys have been looking at other priorities. But to me, I think it's saying it in a way that there is something, even if it's not very much. I think, don't you think that's what Jim was telling us?
And I didn't mean to imply that we were asking for 2 million. The project where last year, or actually it's been a couple years ago, where the county EDC kicked in money, it was a new wastewater service septic elimination system, but it had some potential for economic development. So that's kind of how the economic development funds came in when they contributed more than $2 million to an $18 million project. This is a little different. I get it. Septic elimination, it's not a huge project. SRF likes local participation, and how much? It's going to be up to you guys.
It's a brand new program. We just don't know.
As I had said before, I would be in support of even writing a letter saying that we do support the Whitley County Regional Sewer District without stating how much and stating where that money would come from. The Commissioner Western's here. Last year, Commissioner Western made a motion that we would use on-site, off-site for a sewer project, and I thought that was a great move by him. So, there's places where we could come up with some funds to support this, but I don't want to put us in a position where right now we're committing money from a certain pot and we don't even know, what that pot's going to be or anything. So I can't second the motion that's been presented without an amendment saying that we will support the Whitley County Regional Sewer District, but not name an account where the money would come from or a dollar amount.
I'll amend my motion with the amount not to exceed $250,000.
Say that again.
With your amendments with it out naming the account, right?
Right, but not
And
to
the
exceed.
amount, yeah, not to exceed. I wouldn't feel comfortable giving more than that out of any pot of money.
Well, and that's totally fine. I don't disagree with you, but I don't think for the intent of this letter, I would want to say that right now, the not to exceed.
The other side of that is, this money has to be spent on a timeline. And I know we have other things that you guys are contemplating spending the money on, but what if those don't materialize and you can't use all the money? If you've already committed saying, I'm not going to spend any more of this, and you've got these projects, and, there's other sewer districts that may also be in that same vein, that you may have to spend the money or lose it. And so, let's not make it so that we can. I mean, I guess we can amend the motion later and change it, but keep all your options open, I guess is what I'm saying.
Yeah, I would ask for a more broad motion.
And I understand your intent though, of it's the level. This money has to be spent on very specific things, and
And you
in
said
a
that
tight time.
August 6th is when they would approve or deny, and that's when they would want an answer.
Yeah, we're
about
gonna
what
know
amount it would
by
be.
maybe the 15th.
Yeah,
We're gonna know.
mid-August.
We're gonna know in a month, and then at that point, they'll probably just have to come back in front of the commissioners, and then at that point,
Right.
you can make a motion that says 250 or whatever, but we won't. And I'm hoping at that meeting, what we'll be able to tell you is we've been told a commitment like this from the county will look like a commitment like this from SWIFT funds. So you'll be able to see. I don't know if we'll get that, but
Right.
it would be better if we could tell you that. But it's just so vague when we talk to them. I hate to be evasive, but that's what we're getting. Is a program that they don't even know, that's evolving very quickly.
So what they're trying to do is get projects identified that they know are real and are going to happen, just like you're going to have to with your projects, because they have definite timelines when they got to allocate those funds and spend.
They have to spend.
So they like to see the fact that we're moving forward through design and not just it's a idea of a project that this district has committed, because they borrowed money significantly to move this process forward. And the only way they pay that back is by making this project happen.
So at this point, we have a motion on the floor. Do I hear a second?
Does the motion still include the not to exceed amount?
So we would need to, you guys will come back and ask for a specific amount, or is
I
that something
think
that
we
we
would
need to talk
have to
about
Determine the amount.
and then talk about it in an August meeting?
Once we hear from them,
Could be later.
Okay, I'll amend the motion without the not to exceed the $250,000 limit.
I'll second.
Okay, we've got a motion on the floor to provide our support, letter of support to is the IFA that we're going to,
Yes.
okay, to IFA for the regional sewer district and just not providing any kind of monetary support, funding support until
the dollar amount,
our
Yeah,
dollar
the
amount.
dollar amount and what fund it comes from. Well, maybe Steve and I'll take a stab at that letter, send it to Cammie for you guys to see before.
Yeah, I think it would say something like this: county intends to financially support this project with some co-funding match, but not indicate any dollar amount whatsoever.
Okay,
Or where it comes from.
Or where it comes from, yes.
okay, so we've got a motion, we've got a second. Further discussions? I do have one question. We were asked by the Blue River Conservancy District to provide us, a letter of support also. Is that something that we want to consider with this? Or is that separate, completely separate?
I mean, I think
I think what happened, and also we're the engineer for the Blue Lake Conservancy District. we came in with Blue Lake Conservancy District a couple of weeks ago before we knew IFA's kind of changing rules, and I don't mean that in a negative way, about wanting to see letters of support. So if I could, I think if you're open to that, yes, that would be helpful for the Blue Lake Conservancy District as well. If you did something similar with no mention of a dollar fund. Because they've been before you requesting that participation.
So I'm not in favor of that, Commissioner Trump. I'm in favor of supporting the Whitley County Regional Sewer District.
Okay.
That's something that this county established through the Board of Commissioners and the Whitley County Council. So I'd be all in favor of this letter for the Whitley County solid waste. But I'm not at this time in favor of doing a letter for Blue Lake or Tri-Lakes Regional.
Okay. Any further discussion? All those in favor, raise your right hand. Opposed, the same.
Thank you. Really appreciate the time.
Did you have anything else, Matt?
I did not know.
Okay, the next thing we have on our agenda is the Gateway Park Construction and Access Agreement. Matt, did you have a chance to take a look at that?
I did. Yeah, I actually looked at it a couple times. It kind of initially it came from Andy Boxberger prepared it, I believe, and then Cammy brought it back over to me for a second look. So I've seen it, and to me, it's appropriate. I think it addresses a couple of issues that needed to be dealt with out there.
What this is we're doing through redevelopment, there's going to be some drainage issues that we're going to take care of that's been going on for years and years. But we need to have construction access, and we have to have right-of-way access. And then we're going to turn that maintenance program over to the county after that, at that point, once it's complete.
What would the maintenance entail? What we would just be maintaining the easement and the access road?
Well, it would be the sewer system itself. I don't think we would do anything with any utilities that are within that, right?
You
I mean,
you're
that's
talking about the
storm
water.
sewer, yeah. Yeah, that's just specifically to the storm.
Is it going to be a county drain then? Is that?
I don't know if that makes it, doesn't really make it, it's
Shaky.
just that we have to, it will be really owned by the businesses within that area,
By the park.
and that we would provide maintenance. And basically the maintenance is because of the fact that water goes back into that area where the woods is back there. We'd have to keep that open. I think that's really what we're looking at, is keeping that waterway open.
And who would do that? The highway department? Have we talked to, I mean, have we taken that into consideration?
Yeah, I think we've talked to Brandon about that part of it, but there is no other maintenance that is going to have to be done, really, truly.
We would just be maintaining the access.
Yes. Yeah, there's at the very by AGA and PDQ right there.
Will there be limitations on how the access is used? I mean, will we have a fence up or a gate or anything like that?
No. I'm not sure, is that going to be an actual drain, open drain, or will that be, okay, it's going to be an open drain, so it's going to be just a
Ditch.
ditch,
So
really.
you said it's just gonna be a grass waterway, that's
Sounds like it's
your
gonna be
understanding,
actual
so we would just keep it
ditch.
mowed.
Oh, it's going to be rip wrap.
Yeah, it's gonna be
Yeah.
small.
Yeah.
The wetlands gonna go into the river eventually. It's mainly to keep the water off the roads and, you know, side ditches running along the road. You guys to promote 30 to 100 south.
This is Jim Augerbright. He's the president of the redevelopment commission.
it's kind of creating a detention area basically in an area that was already kind of a detention area. It's just getting the water there a little bit quicker and off the roads. And then it'll go from there into the river on a piece of property that, I can't remember what entity, but Jerry Bushy owns a property and he was happy to let the water just come accumulate on his property to kind of help the whole park get rid of their water, and then it'll go into the river kind of through an overflow or something, but just slows down the water to the river, but also gets it out of the park a lot quicker because there's a lot of, it's been an issue since the park was built, it's my understanding. So,
Yeah, I mean, it makes perfect sense. I'm in favor of it. I think it's a good idea. I was just trying to understand what it means for the county to maintain it, what that looks like. Do we know?
Brandon, would you like
happen
to bring anything forward on this or?
But it sounds to me like we're not saying that we have the ability to, we're saying that we will.
That's how I understood it as well.
So I can't, I mean, I don't want to vote on something when I don't really know what we're saying we'll do.
I don't have the.
Yeah. Yeah. Jim?
It's been an ongoing problem for a lot of years, and actually, we've done some work on it before. There was a lot of water that's actually going out on those really heavy rains. We've stored some of that water. We need additional attention to do this right and get it done correctly. So Williams Drive is main drive going back through there. That goes from Oak 30 back to W.A. Jones and Son and the landscaper back there and Green Lawn or whatever it is, and AGA and that, and this will correctly shape the ditches along the road. And correct me if I'm wrong, Brandon. We want to, for once, funnel this water to the right place. The easement that Jerry Bush is creating, that water's going on a wetland that he owns. It's going to be a wetland forever, which may take part of the water to the river from that stage. So we've already helped US Old 30 some. Now we're just trying to finish this park up and get it back in shape where it's minimal. We consider minimal work for the highway department to maintain that. I mean, this is a $350,000 project redevelopment's paying for, so we hope it is done correct.
And if you'll read this, it really doesn't commit us to the maintenance on this. All it says is, whereas the stormwater drainage system in the Gateway Industrial Park is in need of maintenance and repair, and the Gateway desires to permit the county entities to perform such work for the benefit of Gateway Industrial Park and Gateway. For the consideration of mutual benefits to be derived on the account of this agreement, Gateway hereby grants permission to the county entities and their authorized representatives, agents, employees, contractors, subcontractors, or other designees to perform work, construction, maintenance, and repairs on the related stormwater drainage system within the boundaries of the easements in lieu of the Gateway performing this work itself. So it's not committing us to that, but it's enabling us to work within that easement.
I haven't seen this before. Do I have a copy of that, or I don't see a copy of that?
I don't have a copy either. So it's just giving us permission to walk on the property if we need to, is all. But
Pretty much that's
It's
what it
just an access easement.
so you said that we helped out old US 30. Brandon, have we had any issues with that one at all? Is it the same thing that you said finish it up?
This project is going to take it one step further, like Jim said. The improvements along Business 30 were made several years ago, increased the culvert sizes, driveways. But internally, the gateway wasn't done properly, there's undersized culverts.
And has this agreement been reviewed by you?
Yeah, I've seen it a couple times actually. And to me, I mean, although the maintenance question, it sounds like Brandon's not really worried about it. Wasn't because it does say maintenance, but I didn't think of it in terms of permanent maintenance because it's just like any other roadside ditch or other ditch that it was going to be just part of every other road, and so I didn't think about it in terms of, is there going to be a lot of maintenance? It sounds like there's not going to be. It's just trying to get the water faster to the ditch, in essence. And to me, it seemed like a really good solution that the redevelopment commission was paying $350,000 or so to get accomplished. Just kind of as a benefit to all those businesses to kind of.
Brandon, you don't foresee this being a big issue down the road or at all for the county?
No, I don't.
Okay.
see it being a big issue.
And you're comfortable with it?
Sure, I just wanted you all to commit. It's unusual because the ditch is not a roadside ditch. But I understand service our roads needs to be maintained. So it takes commitment, not by me, by you. This might not need maintained until after I'm gone.
Sure, I completely understand that. I was just wanting to get, I guess, your expertise on that, if it would cause the county any serious issues. If you don't believe that it will, I'm okay with it. If you don't foresee it being a problem, I know you definitely always speak up if you think something will adversely affect the county, so I do trust your judgment on that.
So do I have a motion?
Personally, I feel that we should be more specific in these sorts of things and define what it means, like what we're doing. I understand the necessity and I appreciate redevelopment and their efforts. I would first and foremost ask that if there's agreements like this, that I'd have an opportunity to review them before the meeting. And second, that we would be a little more specific on what it is that we're agreeing to do. After consideration and hearing from Matt and hearing from Brandon, I understand the need and I'm in favor of it. I would just ask for those two things moving forward. But with that being said, I'll make a motion that we approve.
Okay, we've got a motion to approve.
I just have a question. Would it take much to define, because I think Commissioner Banks makes a really good point. Could we push it to the next meeting and maybe define what maintenance means for us?
I don't know what that is. We hope that
See, that's, yeah, if we don't know, that's a little scary.
into this project, that there'll be very minimal maintenance, like Brandon said, quite some time. Hope we're doing this correct.
Yep.
And, I think minimum maintenance to me, and Brandon, you can correct me, if you spray some of the riprap, the grass doesn't, weeds doesn't grow up into it. And that association out there might take care of that, or just, just if the water moves some riprap or needs to be corrected. But we're hoping that this solves a lot of problems, a lot of issues, a lot of years.
Has the contractor been scheduled to come out and do this?
There's stuff, yeah, we've entered into a contract with them, and
That would be the only issue.
I think they're starting to order materials.
To me, I didn't draft the agreement. It came through redevelopment commission, and I saw it the first time because of another client presented it to me and had me review it. And then George came to bring it over to me just to look at again before you guys got it. So I can understand what you're saying. I'd like to see that stuff ahead of time, and with the holidays and everything else, maybe it just didn't get circulated. But as long as it's not going to mess up the contractor who's starting on Monday, it's totally fine with me to redraft the agreement to try and spell out a little bit more. And is there an actual design of what it's gonna look like post-construction? Yeah, I think that maybe would, I think when you saw it, because it's just it's basically a bunch of riprap. You would look at it and maybe realize that potentially we're talking about spraying some Roundup and that's the extent of it. But I get it also if major fails and then there's.
That's my thought.
That's my-
If it fails in 2 years and then we're on the hook to come up with emergency funds to replace.
Redevelopment's still fine.
Well, I get
I
that.
think Brandon, you've seen the design, haven't you? Yeah. Brandon's been out there with the committee that was on this, so he's seen all of it.
Yeah, I get that. And I know that redevelopment is committed to it as well, but after we make an agreement that we're responsible, redevelopment can look at us and say, we're not coming up with funds, you are, you had this agreement. And I know you wouldn't do that, and I know George wouldn't do that, but how do we know who's gonna be on redevelopment when it fails? And, or if it fails, I hope it never fails, but in my opinion, I think an agreement should spell out who the users are in the agreement and what each user's responsibility is. I would just ask that they become a little more specific. If this belongs to the association, to Gateway or to Jerry, then I would say then, what are his responsibilities if any, and what are ours?
To me, it almost seems like the park maybe would be the one to maintain it.
Well, I would think so too. All the businesses come together and probably have an association fee or something.
They do.
And they,
And it does say within here that Gateway's the owner and holder of the permanent drainage easement. So,
I forgot. So they are gonna own it. It's just, the word maintain is in here. Yeah, so there is a separate agreement for permanent drain easement that was entered into, just so you guys know, between the building owner and Gateway Park. So that's Regan Property Holdings, who actually owns the building that PDQ is on, signed a permanent drainage easement to allow that easement to go through their property. We weren't a party to that because it's a private agreement. I think it does talk about. Does talk about there's some them doing some of the maintenances out as well. Yeah, see that they're actually the grantor who is the property owner. And it's kind of confusing, but there's a property here and then there's a property that's woods behind it. And then the river, Regan Property Holdings, who is the landlord of the PDQ building, granted permission for this to go through their property and then dump on a piece of property that Jerry owns behind it, which is just going to hold all the water. And so the actual ditch, for lack of a better word, is actually on property that's owned by Regan, and this agreement spells out some of the maintenance associated with that. But I just don't know that if the contractor is not going to be jammed up because they're starting before our next meeting, then let's just table it and we'll go through and answer those questions. And if we need to, we can redo it.
at this point, we've got a motion on the floor.
I withdraw my motion.
We've got to withdraw the motion.
And I'll move that we table the agreement until some things are clarified.
Okay, we've got a motion to table the easement agreement until verification.
Second?
Second, further discussion? All those in favor, raise your right hand. Opposed, the same. We'll table until our next meeting. Thanks, Matt.
Yeah, no problem.
Nathan Bilger, who is our planning and building director. Plat approval.
Thank you. Have two for your consideration, both approved by the Plan Commission preliminarily at their last meeting. First one. First one is a replat of 2 lots in Magic Hills. It's a replat of a replat that was done a few years ago when the golf course closed, and the property owner of the 2 current lots is shifting the lot in between, the lot line between the 2 lots in order to equalize the pond frontage that's between them. So there is no additional right-of-way being dedicated. Basically, what you guys are looking at are the utility easements being shifted.
I'll move that we approve the request as presented.
Got a motion to approve as presented?
No second.
Got a second? Any further discussions? All those in favor, raise your right hand. Opposed, the same. Thank you.
Thank you. The second one is a plat to be called Cherry Lane. It is a 2-lot plat up on Bird Road. What the owner is doing. What the owner is doing is splitting off a portion of the back part of his property. That's, I believe, lot number 2. He also added a bit of access strip then to Bird Road in order to make it not a landlocked parcel. Because of the rules in place, that's why it needed to be platted. You are, in this case, looking at the dedicated right-of-way for Bird Road that's being included along those 2 frontages, as well as easements.
I don't have any issue with it. I'd like to make a motion that we approve as presented.
Second.
Got a motion to approve as presented. You got a second? Discussion? All those in favor, raise your right hand. Opposed, the same. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Nathan. Okay, next on the agenda, we have the software budget discussion. And I believe that's Janet Schembeckler is our auditor.
Okay, so during the budget meetings with council, I had read a few statutes, and right now, all of our software that includes like financial and payroll software through LAO comes out of my budget right now. Of course, that affects county general, so I was looking into statutes, and I told council when we were having the budget hearings that I didn't know if some of that can be moved to Q and Cap, because that can be used for the maintenance of computer software. So I reached out to George, and he asked me to bring it to you guys, just to see what his thoughts were on it. And when I brought it up to council, they said, well, can it come out of CETA instead of human capital development? I said, I don't know. That is something that obviously I would have to ask the commissioners. And again, that's where coming in, talking to you guys about it and asking what your thoughts are, but I'm the middleman here, so I'm just kind of on behalf of council asking.
Did council happen to say or mention why they thought CEDAT would be more appropriate than?
They did not. I did not say whether, one way or not, why they would think that would be more appropriate. Again, I found the statute for Kim Cap and it said that it can't be used for that. I don't know if there's concern with the cash balance, but I don't, it hasn't been an issue in the past. So, again, sorry, middleman here.
Right,
So,
yeah.
Jim, I don't know, I know Kim.
Well, I think a lot of it seems pretty healthy. Part of it, I always kind of like to have the expenses of that particular department or whatever, back when I served.
Well, and I mean, I tend to agree with that as well. I mean, the users really should be the ones paying for it. They've chosen the software. So I'm not really sure why we would do either one, why we want to just have each department pay for their software agreements.
I think it was just more of one of those things, again, it's used countywide, we obviously can do our payroll and, we didn't pay for it, so again, yeah, it comes out of my budget, county general. But, I mean, again, it was just a request to council, they asked me to bring it to you guys, so that, it's just one of those things where I was trying to help county general, and I found in Kim Cap that it can be used for that, so it was just a request in general.
Sure.
It doesn't necessarily have to change, but. It's used countywide, so that's why I'm asking.
What's it? You said it's used countywide. What is it?
Like, okay, so all the departments have Blau now because they do remote claims, which again, yes, was my request, but they all use it, and then again, we would not be able to do payroll without this. So it's a countywide service is what I'm trying to get at, is, we wouldn't be able to pay everyone if we didn't have the software. So the entire county is benefiting from it. So again, it's $100,000 between our tax software now, because, transfers, that's our tax, property transfers and all of that. So again, it's used, that's what I'm saying, it's used countywide, and public records and stuff like that would not be able to be seen and everything, and wouldn't be done without that software. So I'm just saying it's such a critical point to the entire county that we use the software, and that it's $100,000 out of my budget now. That's why I was just asking.
Is council saying they don't want to fund it?
I'm not necessarily saying that. No, they're just asking if it could come somewhere else besides county general.
I'm not in favor of taking it out of CEDAT personally. I think it should come out of county general if it's something that every department in the county uses.
I'd have to agree with that. I guess my issue is we've got a lot of expenses coming up for the jail project that we really have to be careful. We do have funding within the CEDAR right now, but that could go very quickly. So that was
Yeah,
the
I think
biggest issue I have.
I totally agree with you, George. Maybe it'll be different next year at budget time, but this year I think we leave it alone.
I'll with George, I'll report back to them in the morning.
Perfect.
Okay,
Thank you, Jana.
Thanks, Jana.
I think I'm next too.
Yep.
Okay, so this is the agreement for the advanced timekeeping system. Matt has reviewed it and has okayed it. So if you guys do approve it, council has already approved funding for it. They just want to make sure we're not paying for both programs, obviously. So this would just give us some schedule and hopefully get the ball rolling. But we probably want to start going live until January.
So at one time we had talked about having maybe a month or two overlap where we're using both programs or both systems. Are we still, if it
Yeah, I
fits in
think that's part
January?
of the plan. Well, hopefully we would go live in January, but hopefully October, December, May, November, December, we would have that overlap in those 2 months. So, but this would, again, get.
So when you say go live, they would start to install in January?
They would start actually using the advanced timekeeping system instead of the red stuff.
Okay,
Yep, we would
So,
switch over completely.
like
in January.
October, November, December of 21,
Right.
we would have both programs.
Yes.
But
And
then January of 22, we would stop using Right Stuff.
Right stuff and completely switch over. Correct.
And that's when our agreement with Right Stuff is up, right? We've paid,
Yeah, we pay
For that.
yearly, so yeah, in December it would end.
we wouldn't be on the hook to pay them anymore.
That's correct, Matt, right? Because you reviewed all the agreements, that sounds proper.
Yep,
correct?
that was the way when we read through it all, based on this, when they would actually have you in the queue, which is, when we initially looked at this a month or two ago, I was like, that's kind of a long distance, but because they won't actually, you were thinking October, November, you'd be next in line, right?
Mhm.
So because of that, that's because they're backed up with other people, it sounded like, so.
Any further discussion? Any questions for Jana?
And that overlap time, is that like training for you guys as well? Okay.
Because this would include all the training.
That makes sense.
For departments, they would come in, they would train everyone.
Okay. I'll move that we approve the request as presented, seeing that overlap is for training.
Okay, we've got a motion to approve the advanced time Lao contract as presented.
Second.
Got a second? Any further discussions? All those in favor, raise your right hand. Opposed, the same. Thank you.
Thank you.
And also, we make an amendment that it can be signed by the chair.
I'll move that it can be signed by the chair.
Okay, we've got an amendment to signed by the chair.
I'll second.
Second. Discussion. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Thank you. Thank you, Jen. Brandon, Highway Department update. This is Brandon Forrester, our Highway Director and County Engineer.
The first thing I have for you is a letter of understanding for an unofficial detour. NDOT has a project on State Road 114 that was supposed to be a week-long project, and it ended up being a couple months. And so traffic has been detouring. I mean, there's an official detour on state routes, but traffic will go as far as they can until the barricades are across the road. So they're using our 950 west and 1000 south to and from Wabash County. So the majority of the traffic is actually going south through Huntington and Wabash, but did request an NDOT approved to give us an unofficial detour. And so if the road is damaged due to this traffic, it's been videoed, and they would help reimburse us for any costs associated with that repair. So if you would care to sign and date this, that would be great.
Brandon, where is the construction going on 114?
It's between 950 and what would be 1000. So that it's very close to the Wabash County line, actually.
I'll move that we approve the unofficial detour.
Got a motion to approve the unofficial detour.
Second.
Got a second. Further discussion? All those in favor, raise your right hand. Opposed, the same.
Not county highway, but another NDOT project that affects a lot of people in this county, State Road 9, north of Columbia City. I did receive an update email this morning. And the plan, which of course is weather dependent, is to have the first structure of just south of 250 north completed by the end of the week. And then they would be moving to the south structure that's between Cider Mill and 150. So that project is moving along, probably not as fast as some people would like, but that's construction sometimes. Hopefully, I'm not asking for approval. I don't think it's set to be approved today, but no parking ordinance I sent to, I believe, everyone to be approved, hopefully at the next meeting for west or east Lincoln Way. And also at next meeting, we will receive truck bids for 2 tandem axle dump trucks. Not to be opened at the meeting, but we will also receive on that day proposals from engineering consultants for our federal aid ADA project. We will need, in fact, I had one consultant ask who the scoring committee was going to be, and I instantly snapped and said, well, that'll be the commissioners. No, I said it was to be determined. Community crossings. Did anybody get?
Tough crowd,
No.
tough crowd.
Wow.
We didn't know if you were receiving.
Well, maybe that's good. Community crossings. We did get Brooks Construction's performance bond, and I issued notice of receipt for them. Been in contact with their project personnel. They're anticipating to get started around the middle of August, and that project does have a completion date of middle of September. That's for Ray Road, 650 West. The second round of community crossings is open for applications, and that opened up July 5th. We've got until the end of July. I will also, it's my intention at least, to bring to you a financial commitment letter at the next meeting, because that's part of the application process. You have to commit to the funds that you're applying for. So, and the last thing I have, I've got, every year we have to redo our 5-year plan so we can apply for community crossings. I made some maps. I didn't make them to distribute. I'd be happy to share them with you, talk about them. It's a 5-year plan, and if someone sees that, oh, my road's getting whatever next year, then they're gonna expect it. And plans are meant to be changed, and they do every year, so. Technically, it's public record, but I'll just let you know I have it. If you want to see it, I'd be happy to sit down with you and go over it. Other than that, that's all I have.
Thank you, Brandon.
Thank
Anything
you.
for Brandon?
Yeah, can you talk a little bit more about the parking ordinance on Lincoln Way West?
There is a problem with individuals parking on and along the right of way, being utilized by a business out there that apparently doesn't have adequate parking on their own property. And that business has been spoken to several times, and they've talked about increasing their parking capacity, and there's been no action. And I was asked to prepare a no parking ordinance so that we could enforce it.
Sure. What is the easement? I mean, what is the right of way for?
Oh, from pole to pole, I'm not familiar with the exact
Sure.
right of way width. It's at least 100 foot.
Right.
Along there. That's because that's old US 30.
Yeah, I will say, first and foremost, I'm concerned for safety of
Absolutely.
the patrons of the current business or of that business.
Yes.
So I am considering that ordinance. I think we're talking about possibly next meeting, but I just wanted to hear from you a little bit more about that.
Yeah, it is definitely a safety concern. And that's not my normal route. It is kind of my neighborhood, but I have seen it on occasion. And I'm told on Wednesdays they have events and of course weekends, and it can get pretty hectic, congested.
Initially, I thought that that patrons were just parking on that business's property in the right of way, but it's my understanding that they're going beyond the property lines and parking on neighboring properties. Is that?
As well as across the road.
Yeah.
I mean, and since we're talking about it, they serve alcohol there. The last thing the county wants is, someone getting hit crossing the road to get back to their car.
Mhm.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Brandon. Did you, I'm sorry.
No, I just said thank you, that's all.
Thank you.
Okay, next on our agenda, we have the payroll and accounts payable claims approval. I think Teresa had a chance to take a look at the claims today.
Yes, there were not very many of them, and I went through each of them. Everything looked to be correct and in order.
Great.
So I would make a motion that we approve payroll and accounts payable.
Okay, we've got a motion to approve payroll and accounts payable claims.
I'll second.
Got a second? Discussion? All those in favor, raise your right hand. Opposed, the same. Thank you. You want to separate? Oh, okay, that's fine. Next on the agenda, we have the previous meeting minutes approval. That was for June 21st, 2021. I hear a motion for approval or amendments.
I move that they're approved as presented.
I'll second that.
Got a motion to approve as presented. We've got a second. Further discussions? All those in favor, raise your right hand. Opposed, the same. Thank
I
you.
abstain.
We got one abstention. Sure. Commissioner Banks? Matt, did you have anything?
I do, and I apologize because it had been about a month since I had read through this agreement, but I did look at the access agreement again for Gateway Park. And we do not have to provide the maintenance. Ultimately, Gateway is allowing us permission to do the work ultimately, but it specifically says that the agreement shall not confer any duties on the county entities to construct, maintain, or repair the system. So they're giving us permission to do it. They're not, this isn't even saying we'll do it. They just give us permission to do it. And then once we do it, we have no further obligation at all. So,
So basically it is just an access agreement.
yeah, it's just giving us permission to do their job in essence, because according to the easements that they currently have, Gateway Park is responsible for that. They're allowing us to do it. And then assuming we do it, which we don't even have an affirmative duty to do it in this agreement. It just says we have permission to do it. Redevelopment Commission, I know, is going to do it, but we don't even have the affirmative duty to do it. We just have permission if we choose to. Subsequent to that, there is no maintenance or any requirement. It falls back on the park pursuant to this maintenance agreement from 2012. So
I think that changes everything.
yeah, it does. And that's why I wanted to bring it back up because, to the extent they're working on it, we have no skin in the game. I mean, in essence, really, redevelopment's paying it. We have no responsibility, and we might as well get that one. If you guys are comfortable with that.
Totally comfortable with it now. Thanks for the clarification.
Yeah, thank you.
I would move that we approve the agreement.
Second.
Okay, we got a motion to approve the Gateway access agreement. We've got a second.
It is set up for just George's signature.
And I would include in my motion that we allow for Chairman Trump to be the sole signature.
Okay, allowing for the chairman to sign for the commissioners. We've got a second. Further discussions? All those in favor, raise your right hand. Opposed, the same. Thank you. Thank you, Matt.
Yeah, no problem.
Anything further?
I do nothing.
Yeah. Commissioner?
Yes, sir. Just one thing, the mixer board in our meeting room is fried. And I would like to make a motion that we approve the expense for purchasing or replacing the mixer board. And what was presented today was $6,695. I would like to move that we approve that expense.
Okay, we got a motion to approve the mixer expense to repair the commissioner's room and council room audiovisual system.
And I'm sorry, I don't know exactly where I would move that we pull that money from. Do you have a recommendation?
I would hope maybe,
Rainy day. since it-
well, Cume Cap or rainy day, I would think either one.
Yeah, I do.
So if you could ask maybe council or request from council.
Okay,
Perfect.
So I guess we just have a favorable pass at this point.
That'll work for me. You second.
second.
Okay, got a motion and a second discussion. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Opposed, the same. Thank you. Commissioner?
Couple things. Our final jail visit will be this Friday, and hopefully next week as commissioners, we will pick our architecture. We will have the final design for our jail so we can get that moving. The longer we wait, the more costs go up. We've definitely pushed this project off for years and years, so it needs to be done. Second thing, we have been talking to Forrester Fiber about bringing fiber internet to Whitley County. We do have a proposal for that, and I will be presenting that to council tomorrow. And those funds would most likely come out of the ARPA funds that were just distributed. However, we've not completely decided on where those funds are going to go. The Department of Treasury has yet to give out the full guidance on what you can spend that on. However, broadband is in there as something you can spend it on. However, again, the details are still getting worked out. So I will discuss more of that in the commissioner's report tomorrow at council.
Else?
That's it for me.
Okay, I don't have anything right now. How about public? Anything? Paula, did you have anything? Anyone else?
You know what, I do, and you reminded me, we are set to close hopefully July 7th or the 8th on the Armstrong property. I think the funds we're just waiting on the final settlement statement, so it's all ready to go. And just as by way of update, that's all set to happen.
Great, thank you.
Yep.
I do have one thing just to share. We are beginning our discussion with the Whitco Career Academy to start referring the adult vocational training center, so we're excited about that. We already have 7 interested just there on work release, but obviously home detention, mission 25, probation are also screening program participants for interest. Joe Luce said he should have an application to me hopefully this week or next week, so we can actually formally start the process where we're hoping to get individuals enrolled in their programs.
That's great. You know, it's, I feel so proud of Whitley County, what we've done with other projects for the community corrections. We've got the mental health facility now and working on a therapeutic community for our community corrections now. We've got, you know, once they get out of the system, that they'll have some place to work and they'll have skills. I mean, I think our community is 1 in a million. I really do. We're really fortunate. We've got some great commissioners. Okay. Call for adjournment.
So move.
We're adjourned.